I'm Connor Old, and this is Old's Oscar Countdown. And today we're looking at the Best Actress category. So if you're new, welcome to the new series. If you're not, welcome back. But if you are new, what we do every single week is we break down a new category of the Oscars for the 2018 nominations. We're going to continue past that, and then we're going to go into finally the Oscar predictions. But what we do is we break down in category, different one. Last week we did Best Picture. This week we'll do Best Actress. Next week we'll do Best Actor. And I talk about who I think is going to get nominated. I also think who's possibly going to win at this stage, and I also think of some possibles. But last year I found that because of this format, later on when it gets closer to the nominations, I start doing some of the more smaller categories, which are great and all, and they're fun, especially for the Oscar sort of nerds or buffs that really sort of, I think, watch this channel because it's very nitty-gritty about the Oscars. That normally doesn't necessarily work out. You know, it's great for them, but the thing is that the Best Picture definitely changes a lot in these sort of upcoming, I guess, October, November, December, and then in January. So these next 4 months, you know, plenty of things could change. You know, we haven't even seen The Post. We haven't seen Paul Thomas Anderson's new movie. So little things like that could mess things up. So what I've decided to do is do an opening segment at each of the show called Connor's Corner. And what I do is I talk about just a brief update of who I think is the movies that are rising, some movies that are falling, to sort of maybe update my list. Last week I talked about two possibles, Blade Runner and The Florida Project. And I still think they're sort of possibles right now, although I do think Florida Project is definitely rising. Just released in theaters, limited, and started to release wide. I think it's going to do well. It's getting incredible reviews from everyone. And even in regards to this Best Actress category, it could be similar to a movie like Beasts of the Southern Wild. But for that movie, the difference is that movie had a central lead as a young girl, which her name was like Covenza Wallace or something, a big long name I can never pronounce. But she was the main star. She got nominated. And we haven't seen a kid get nominated, especially in the actress category, for a little bit now. And it would be interesting to see maybe there's two girls in The Florida Project. I haven't seen the movie yet, but it's Brooklyn Prince and Valeria Cotto, I believe are the two names. They're two 7-year-old children. Apparently I've heard just incredible things from them. The thing is that The Florida Project is a movie where it doesn't have a lot of knowns. The most known person is Willem Dafoe, and I think he's going to get in for Best Supporting Actor. But I think the buzz around it's really supporting. The thing when I said last week where the A24 support may be sort of focused on Lady Bird and maybe The Disaster Artist over this movie could be true, but I think they're going to really push for Florida Project and Lady Bird as a sort of movie where they're sort of they're small indies, but they're character focused and they're interesting and they're both getting great reviews. I think Lady Bird was really sort of a big surprise at Telluride, and they weren't very much surprised with that one, so they'll push it as much as it goes. And I think that one definitely still has a little more push to it, but I think The Florida Project is definitely rising, could get in for that final nomination spot, and could get in some of these different sort of categories. I don't think it's going to win, but I do think it's on the rise. Another movie that's sort of now into falling, I would say Blade Runner 2049. The box office results are not good for that movie. It's cost like $300 million to make and market that movie. They totally overestimated it. International still has to pick up its slack, but domestically it did not do very well. People are considering it a bomb. It's a 2 hour and 45 minute long movie. I would say this is similar to Interstellar, where they're both like October released. I think Interstellar was October, but November, October released, where they're long movies. They're very a thinking man's movie, if you could say that. But they're not of interesting directors, Denis Villeneuve for Blade Runner and Christopher Nolan for Interstellar. But they're these long blockbuster movies, space movies, sort of abstract in that sense of spending a lot of budgets to not put sort of this sort of abstract movie. These movies differ than some of the space movies that the Oscars do, like something like The Martian, something like Gravity. They like these movies, but they don't like, say, an Interstellar or Blade Runner 2049. That's why, even though Arrival did very well, Arrival is a different movie. It's a more contained movie. It's a character drama. It's very grounded sci-fi, which is the reason why I got in. It's very grounded. Same with Get Out. It's a horror movie. Most horror movies don't get in, but it's a grounded horror movie. It's not monsters. It's not craziness. That's sort of how you get into the Oscars. Even comedy has to be sort of like an intelligent comedy, all this stuff. But I think Blade Runner is definitely going to go down. I'm seeing cinematography for a win. I think they're going to put other baskets in that movie. However, if Dunkirk doesn't get a lot of the nominations I'm thinking of getting. I don't think it's going to get any acting nominations. I don't think it's going to get any writing. Then they have to put it in strategic places because it is a front runner for Best Picture in my mind. So they might give it to Hoyt van Hoytema for the cinematography because they made such a big deal of it. I was wearing my Dunkirk shirt in last video where it says, when you went to the first screening, I saw Dunkirk in 70mm IMAX. That's a big thing, so maybe the cinematography will go there, but I think right now Blade Runner's chances is cinematography, possibly editing for Joe Walker because he is the best editor on the planet, but we'll see because I don't think Blade Runner has the support that it needs right now, even though it is a fantastic movie, one of my favorite movies of the year. That's normally what happens with the Oscars. My favorite movies of the year don't get in. Another movie that's one of my favorites, Downsizing, I talked about this last week. That definitely is falling. I don't think it's going to get any nominations, which is sad. It was thinking about supporting actress and then maybe screenplay, but screenplay is too hard to get in, so that's gone. Supporting actress, I think other movies have their unique audiences, have pulled ahead. Something like, I always get these two mixed up, but like Melissa and Leo for Novotate. Novotate is a movie that's not going to get any love. Even Holly Hunter for The Big Sick, I think will get in. Maybe Michelle Pfeiffer for Mother. And then Allison Janney might get in for, I believe, I, Tonya, and then Laurie Metcalf will get in for Lady Bird. But this is not the best supporting actress category. This is best lead actress. So I'm seeing a rise in Florida Project, and I'm seeing a fall in something like Downsizing, Blade Runner 2049, and I think Battle of the Sexes, because of this poor box office performance, will knock out Emma Stone and even possibly knock out score in cinematography. I really love the score. Check out that for Battle of the Sexes, done by Nicholas Bertel, the Moonlight score, person of last year. And actually the cinematographer of that movie, Linus Sandgren, did La La Land from last year. That's an interesting thing to point out. I did not like the cinematography of that movie. I love the score. I'd love to see that get in, but I don't think it will get any nominations, unfortunately. So now let's move over into my picks. I'll read them out and then I'll read the possibles and I'll explain each. The first one is Sally Hawkins, The Shape of Water. So Sally Hawkins, The Shape of Water. Frances McDormand, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Meryl Streep, The Post. Saoirse Ronan, Lady Bird, Jessica Chastain, Molly's Game, and for possibles, I went with Kate Winslet from Wonder Wheel and Judi Dench from Victoria and Abdul. All right, let's start with Sally Hawkins. This is why I picked her at number 1 because of the Shape of Water buzz. I think this movie is getting a lot more buzz. I think a lot of people really enjoy it. Like I said in this previous video, it could be that 2 and 3 movie. It is weird, but the Oscars, I think, will like this type of weird. Sally Hawkins plays a mute character, which is, I think, a very Oscar-y type thing. And the thing is from what I've heard, is that, whenever a character has some sort of handicap or changes their face and puts up a lot of makeup, the Oscar tends to recognize that. But with this performance and with Gary Oldman's performance, a guy who's putting a lot of makeup and trying to be a historical figure, a lot of times the Oscars recognize these type of performances, but a lot of people say, oh, they're showy, they're not really that good. Like, Meryl Streep was great in Iron Lady, but the movie was all right, you know what I mean? This is sort of a different scenario from what I've heard from both these movies, actually, but in terms of Sally Hawkins, because the mute sort of allows her, because she's mute, she can't speak, that's what it means. It allows her to really express with her smiles and her face and really sort of almost a showy performance, but it's just enough. It's a character for Sally Hawkins to really get her bones deep in and really understand it. Guillermo del Toro wrote this lead for Sally Hawkins, so this is a role written for her. Apparently she's really tremendous and carries this movie, so I think she's definitely to get nominated because I see Shape of Water getting a lot of nominations because it's one of those movies that a lot of people love of different categories, whether you're the visual effects people or you're the acting people. You'll recognize Sally Hawkins acting, or Richard Jenkins, or even Doug Jones, or Octavia Spencer, or Michael Shannon. Really, it's a great ensemble cast. And then if you're a technical person, you'll see the visual effects and how the sort of fairy tale-like story is told with The Shape of Water. It sounds like an interesting movie. I'm not sure if it's going to be up my alley, but I'm really interested to see if anything. And apparently, from what it seems like, it's almost like it's a second nature of it. She totally nails the mute thing. It seems like it's just sort of a flawless performance of her, and it doesn't detract from the movie. It's not too obvious, which is really great. It sort of gives a nice subtlety. It sort of relaxes in the movie, which I think mute characters with a handicap, they really add to the movie. They don't distract. Something like I Am Sam from Sean Penn, I thought that was so sort of overdone. And like, oh, he's playing, a guy with a mental handicap. Oh, give him the Oscar nomination, right? But I didn't really buy that. But something like Rain Man, Dustin Hoffman, he's a great supporting character. And it's not saying that mental handicap characters can't be leads. But what I'm trying to say is just how it doesn't take away from the movie. it doesn't make you care less for the characters or make it just like a thing that they just added on or something that they tried to do artificially. I think this is sort of a good, interesting thing. Also, another thing to point out, Jean Dujardin from The Artist, he sort of carried the wave and won that Oscar because of the movie's success, but he also played a mute character, so they do like mute characters. Also, in 2017, Sally Hawkins was also praised for another movie that she did, which is Maudie. Now, this actually was premiered at 2016 TIFF last year, so I think it technically counted last year, but most people saw it this year because it came out in June of 2017. And they say great things about Ethan Hawke, but really great things about Sally Hawkins and Maudie. So even the supporters that may not like Shape of Water will say, oh, I like Maudie though. So we could see possibly a vote split, but Maudie is just sort of an interesting movie that doesn't have a lot of support. Her support is in The Shape of Water, but those Maudie votes will sort of push her over the edge, and I think will definitely get her in the nomination because of how well Shape of Water is doing and how she's the lead in the romance that she connects with Doug Jones's character, sort of the fish man. And I think just a great job. The role is written for her. She nails it. Apparently, I haven't seen the movie, but I think she's a shoo-in to get in. Number 2 now is Frances McDormand. Number 2 is Frances McDormand for 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I have seen this movie, and Frances McDormand is my personal favorite actress of the year so far. She's incredible in this movie. The amount of range the movie allows her to really take, the different tones of the movie is what I really love about it. It's dark and it's very, not serious at the time, but there's serious subject material. Then they make light of that with the comedy. Then there's some really heartfelt things, and there's like a mystery sort of aspect to it. There's incredible sort of amalgamations of this genre. And really it's an incredible juggling act by Martin McDonagh, but even more incredible juggling act from Frances McDormand, where not only is she serious because she wants to find her daughter, which is the premise of the movie, which is essentially her daughter was raped and murdered, and she feels the police aren't doing anything, so she gets 3 billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri, and buys them and says these 3 things, and it causes this sort of this huge uproar in this small town, and becomes sort of on the news and sort of spreads. And but she does this incredible range where she has great sort of serious moments because this is a serious subject matter. She also deals with like a divorce and sort of that family dynamic. And there's also the comedic timing. She does incredible sort of sarcastic, witty sort of timing jokes. Her comedic timing is off the charts. She's also very heartfelt. You want to care for her character. So at the same time, she's so commanding and in control and scary in some senses, but other times you feel for her, you see the real person that is, and she's not entirely this persona, but when she has this persona, she sort of is funny. Just super interesting, super well-written character. Frances McDormand has been nominated 4 times, won once for Fargo, rightly deserved as one of the greatest movies of all time. And I'm really excited to see her back in. She really shows that, she's an incredible actress and a force to be reckoned with, and this performance seems like it was made for her. She does an incredible job with it, and I think that the movie's getting buzz and won People's Choice at TIFF, and that could really push her over the edge, and everyone talks about her. Similar for a lot of these actresses, I think, like for a couple of ones later, it's like you think of the movie, you think of 3 Billboards, you think of Frances McDormand, and then Sam Rockwell. Or you think of something else and you do this. I think the movie's going to do really well, and I think in terms of the Oscars, and I think she's going to get in as well. Okay, number 3, Meryl Streep, The Post. This is a sort of an obvious one maybe, but maybe not. But never count out Meryl. She's gotten like 20, 21 nominations, something crazy like that. She's won 3 times before. And we haven't seen this movie yet, but I think this is a very dark horse because I can't say anything right now, which is why I put it at 3, which is why I put The Post at number 3, because this very could easily be the number 1. Meryl Streep is going to win this year, because you never want to count out Meryl. Last year, look at something like Florence Foster Jenkins. I was saying Meryl for a long, long time. I was like, don't count her out. No, everyone was counting her out. And what happened? She gets in, but the surprise there was Ruth Negga and not Amy Adams, which is so hard because I love Amy Adams so much, and she didn't get in, which is a bummer. But this year, not as passionate as last year, because last year was a great category for Best Actress. But this one, so far, looks like to be a very competitive one, especially for those 4 or 5 slots. Although I do think Sally Hawkins is Sally Hawkins is a good shot to get in. I think first McDormand is a good shot to get in. I think The Post, if it lives up to everyone's expectations, should get in. And because I think The Post, especially this movie, and Meryl Streep could be that lead instead of the Tom Hanks. I think if anyone would win, I haven't seen the movie, of course, no one has, but I think it would be Meryl Streep, and then instead of Tom Hanks in terms of who would win the Oscar. I think both can get nominated, but I think still Meryl has a more likelihood of getting nominated and a likelihood of winning than Tom Hanks getting nominated and winning. I think she wins in both those categories. And because the thing is that Meryl is a very political figure. If you remember last year, the debate was, well, she called out Donald Trump at the Golden Globes, and her speech was really amazing and sort of garnered a lot of boost for her, for Florence Foster Jenkins, because she was sort of that anti-Trump vote, sort of going back against Hollywood. That thing, I think, still applies this year as in the more controversial things that happen. I think she's a very political figure, especially even in terms of the Harvey Weinstein thing. She's been very outspoken and talking out against it and trying to protect the victims of the scenario. And The Post is a very political movie. It's about journalism and telling the truth and bringing down the White House. So you have this movie where she's this character bringing down the White House, this sort of maybe tough, hard-edged journalistic person, which is what I'm sort of getting the vibe from. And then she's also that real person in real life, where she's talking out and trying activist and maybe questioning the president's decisions. And I think that could be very, very useful for her in terms of that double combination. Where we've seen that before with Cuba Gooding Jr., where his character in Jerry Maguire was almost his character in real life. Now, I'm not saying that about Meryl Streep, but I think if they sort of want to rally behind this cause, Meryl Streep is the lead figure in this cause of playing that movie. And I think she hasn't won one since 2011, which is The Iron Lady, I think, or maybe even before that. Yeah, maybe even before that, I can't remember now. But I think that maybe she's due for one, but she's definitely going to get nominated because she got nominated for Florence Foster Jenkins, and that movie is not good. It's just so okay, like whatever, and she got nominated. So we'll see. And she's going to go toe-to-toe with Hanks, which will definitely bring stuff out of her for sure. Spielberg knows how to direct performances. You're talking about Daniel Day-Lewis and Lincoln, stuff like that. So he definitely knows how to get it out, even something like Liam Neeson's Schindler's List. You have that political aspect. You have Meryl Streep being a phenomenal actress and getting nominated for literally everything. So The Post, I think, is going to get in. But I think depending on how good it is and how outspoken she is and how she sort of angles her campaign, I think she can go all the way with this one. Okay, number 4, Saoirse Ronan, Lady Bird. I've heard a lot of great things about Lady Bird. This is why I said this instead of the Florida Project, because it's a little more concise, it's a little more, you can put into a box and understand this. It could get in for screenplay, it could get in for best picture, it can get in for actresses, but these 4 or 5 categories, these 4 and 5 spots, I think are very interchangeable. I chose these 2 for, okay, I'll say the 5th one. So 4th is Saoirse Ronan, Lady Bird, and 5th is Jessica Chastain, Molly's Game. Now, I chose these 4 and 5 instead of my possibles, Kate Winslet and Judi Dench, because Jessica Chastain and Saoirse Ronan have not won before. Usually, Oscars have their ingenue type thing. Frances McDormand has won, Meryl Streep has won, Sally Hawkins has not won, that's why I sort of put her up at number 1. But 4 and 5, these are also very interesting scenarios where they're both the leads of their movies. Meryl Streep has her and Tom Hanks, so so co-leads. Frances McDormand, she's the lead, but there's also Woody Harrelson has his storyline, and Sam Rockwell, which is just as much as a storyline, really, as the movie transitions. It really focuses on him. And then Sally Hawkins, The Shape of Water, you have her, and then you also have an incredible ensemble of Octavia Spencer, Michael Shannon, and Richard Jenkins, and then also the relationship with Doug Jones. So she's the lead, but she's not really the lead, she's more of an ensemble piece. The 2 leads in terms of Lady Bird, Saoirse Ronan is the lead. The supporting actress is Laurie Metcalf. She will get nominated, possibly win. But Jessica Chastain and Molly's Game, Idris Elba is in there, but she is the lead. I think between these last 4 and 5 spots, I haven't seen Wonder Wheel, but maybe Kate Winslet is the lead, but I think of that ingenue type thing, where if you don't know, it's a French term for the Oscars in terms of the women. They generally go for younger women for the winners, something like Emma Stone, Brie Larson, Jennifer Lawrence, Lupita Nyong'o, and compared to some of the older actresses, Leonardo DiCaprio. A lot of people said he hasn't won until he was like 41 for The Revenant, because he was sort of this young baby face. They didn't necessarily respect him. Sort of an interesting gap where the young actress wins for the female side and the more veteran sort of actor wins for the male side. Just an interesting thing, like point to be made. But in terms of Saoirse Ronan for Lady Bird, she's the main protagonist. She's sort of angsty. She's funny. She has great rapport apparently with Laurie Metcalf. She's the lead character. She interacts with all the ensemble characters. Something like a Lucas Hedges. I think Timothée Chalamet is in it as well, and I think really carries that they love her from Atonement, Brooklyn. So possibly if this movie gets enough support, she could go all the way. I don't think so. I think it's going to be a Brooklyn scenario where Lady Bird movie gets in because of the incredible performances by Laurie Metcalf and Saoirse Ronan, and then maybe sneaks in for writing. So I see the similar, I know it's Saoirse Ronan in Brooklyn, but I see them in similar movies, even though this one has more of an edge to it. I think that they'll sort of respect Greta Gerwig for directing and writing this movie by giving her the writing nomination. They love Saoirse Ronan, they'll get her in, and then maybe give all the love, and Laurie Metcalf will win Best Supporting Actress. We'll see, but I think she's always sort of loved. She is that sort of young, great new actresses. She was incredible in Brooklyn. She almost won for that, actually. I mean, Brie Larson was sort of the front runner, but if anything, Saoirse Ronan was number 2. I really enjoyed Brooklyn, and I can't wait to see Lady Bird, and I think she should get in. Okay, and now let's move over into my final choice and my possibles. All right, Jessica Chastain from Molly's Game. From what I've heard and from I can tell from a lot of the Sorkin's movies, I talked about this in the Rob Reiner episode of Masters of Controlled Chaos. Check that out. But Aaron Sorkin, what he does for a lot of people is he definitely makes them seem smarter than they are. Not the actress, but the character. He does Steve Jobs, he does Mark Zuckerberg, he does Few Good Men, like Tom Cruise, which is this snappy, sort of quick-witted lawyer. A lot of these characters that he chooses are very sort of intelligent, they're elite, and that really works well with his writing of this sort of snap fast, sort of really quick back and forth, walk and talk dialogue. From now he's directing it, so he really understands sort of how the movie's supposed to be told and the way that he wants to tell it. And Jessica Chastain, just from the trailer, seems like she totally commands this movie. She owns it. This seems like a very Zero Dark 30-ish performance to me. She's also never won before. I just don't think Molly's Game is going to give it her. I think she's in the number 5 spot because I don't think she's going to win, because Molly's Game isn't the movie that necessarily will put her over the edge because it doesn't have enough strength. However, I think when people watch her, they're like, wow, she's the one to watch out for. Even last year, Miss Sloane, she was a possible contender even though the movie was just okay. But so Jessica Chastain always has this sort of aspect to her, and I think Molly's Game can really show her, and even Aaron Sorkin does a lot for actors. Jesse Eisenberg, he got nominated. Michael Fassbender for Steve Jobs, he got nominated. Jesse Eisenberg for Social Network, which Sorkin wrote, he got nominated. Fassbender for Steve Jobs, he got nominated, and it was possibly a win. That was a Leo year all year, but Fassbender was sort of that number 2. And then what else? Oh yeah, Moneyball for Brad Pitt. All these movies Aaron Sorkin wrote and got the lead actor the nomination. So this one being a female-centric movie, I think we'll get the lead actress the nomination. She seems like she totally just commands the screen, is the best way I can see it from the trailers, and I think just will make her look great. And Chastain is an incredible actress, as we've seen from Zero Dark 30, so I think she can pull it off again, and I think get that sort of flip-flop nomination. Now, number 1 possible, I think, though, is Kate Winslet for Wonder Whale. This is a Woody Allen movie, similar to Jessica Chastain. That incredible writing could really show her strengths. Kate Winslet is an incredible actress. They love her before. She's won for The Reader, got nominated plenty of times before that, including the Titanic. And I think that they really appreciate her. She's gone past the ingenue, which she was in the Titanic, sort of this young, fresh-faced, and has won her Oscar already, which is why I think they deserve they've given it to her already. I also question the strength of Wonder Wheel. Right now it seems like it's on the back of Kate Winslet. Cinematography, maybe. Adapted screenplay, maybe. Or I think maybe, it's not original screenplay, but maybe screenplay, maybe actress. These are a lot of maybes. They're all sort of my possibles, because it's hard to judge Wonder Wheel, because people that have seen it have been like, wow, this is an incredible movie, one. Like, a lot of people have been guessing it like, wow, no, they're really on Kate Winslet, like, because they've seen the movie. Now, I haven't seen the movie. I've heard too much things. It's a Woody Allen movie, which is always risky. He can do something like Blue Jasmine and get Kate Blanchett to win, but he can also do something like Cafe Society and Jesse Eisenberg and Kristen Stewart and make like sort of an okay movie, or even something like Irrational Man with Joaquin Phoenix Phoenix and Emma Stone and not get any nomination. So it's always hard to see. From the trailer, the cinematography does look incredible, but I just don't think the support of this movie will push it over the edge, which may be disappointing because the movie's good, but it's always hard to see. It hasn't done the typical awards run either, I don't think, and I haven't heard too much about it in terms of buzz. It's sort of just been like, oh yeah, Wonder Wheel, that's a movie that exists, but that's why I put it into the possible. But if anything, Kate Winslet could sneak in there. I think Molly's Game and Wonder Wheel both don't have a lot of support, but I think Molly's Game will get in for Best Adapted Screenplay because of that Sorkin incredible screenplay, and that will push Molly's Game as a movie over the edge, which will get Jessica Chastain over the edge into the nomination. Last one I also got is Judi Dench, Victoria and Abdul. A lot of people are predicting this, but I think this could be a Florence Foster Jenkins scenario like last year, where directed by the same guy, Stephen Frears, he makes an okay movie. A lot of people think it's okay, it's all right. But Judi Dench last time, she played a queen. She won in Shakespeare in Love, so you never know. But yeah, like I said, Florence Foster Jenkins was okay and Meryl got nominated, so maybe Judi Dench will get nominated. They do love her a lot, so we'll see. But right now, I don't think the movie is that good. It doesn't have a lot of buzz. It hasn't done that well at the box office. Actually, a lot better than I expected, but still not super great. And I think it's maybe sort of did a little bit of a too early of a run in that sense, but we'll see. You never know. But anyways, guys, those are my choices. Let me know in the comment below who you think is sort of the front runner, who you can think could win. This is a wide open year right now. I think Sally Hawkins is a good shot. I don't think Frances McDormand, just because I think Shape of Water is a more stronger Oscar movie than Three Billboards, but you never know with The Post and Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep can totally rise. A lot of people started putting her down because they don't know how The Post is going to do. It's just that unknown factor. Although if The Post is good, which I think it will be, in that political sort of Spielberg thriller type sense, this could really propel her. And if she plays her cards right, I think Meryl Streep can go all the way. That's sort of my dark horse pick. And then we'll see for the 4th and 5th slot nominations. This could change anytime. I'll be doing the Connor's Corner updates to let you know in the future for every episode. But anyways, guys, I'm Connor Old, and until next time, stay tuned.